Now that both Samsung and Xiaomi have their Ultra offerings on the market, we thought it'd be fun to compare both monster camera systems with each other. In this shootout, we'll be comparing the main and ultra-wide cameras of the Galaxy S21 Ultra and the Mi 11 Ultra. We'll also throw in some comparison shots of the Samsung Galaxy Note20 Ultra since it has a native 5x zoom like the Mi 11 Ultra. I'm Ricky with GSM Arena, and let's jump into these cameras, starting with Xiaomi's hardware. The Mi 11 Ultra has a triple camera setup that makes use of the Samsung GN2 sensor, the latest high-end sensor that's the largest of any modern smartphone. This sensor is 50 megapixels in resolution, but it's quad-Bayer, so it takes 12.5 megapixel stills. The f1.95 lens is optically stabilized, which further justifies the huge protrusion of the camera island. The telephoto camera has a 48 megapixel sensor and uses an f4.1 aperture lens. This camera is capable of 5x optical zoom. The ultra-wide camera also uses a 48 megapixel sensor. It features a 128-degree wide-angle view and autofocus. Next up, the Samsung Galaxy S21 has a 108 megapixel ISOCELL camera with f1.8 aperture lens. It's a non-cell sensor, so it outputs 12 megapixel photos. Although the Mi 11 Ultra has bidirectional dual pixel autofocus, the S21 has just the regular dual pixel one. The S21's ultra-wide camera is 12 megapixels, it has an f2.2 aperture lens, and autofocus as well. Finally, the S21 Ultra has two telephoto cameras. The first is a 10 megapixel camera with 3x optical zoom, and the second is the periscope lens capable of 10x optical zoom. Both devices use laser autofocus, and all cameras except the ultra-wides are optically stabilized. Now let's see how they compare in image quality. In daylight photos, you'll notice that the Mi 11 Ultra tends to underexpose just a little bit. We prefer the more accurate exposing of the S21 Ultra. Dynamic range and contrast otherwise look great out of both cameras. Textures and details look very natural on the Mi 11's photos. It's very much unlike the over-sharpening that we've seen with the S21, which makes textures look a bit over-processed. Foliage also looks better on the Mi 11 Ultra. Colors, meanwhile, are rendered about the same between the two cameras, both of which look natural. The ultra-wide camera on the Mi 11 Ultra has a wider 128-degree field of view compared to the S21 Ultra's 120-degree field of view. This means that the Mi 11 Ultra captures a little bit more frame, but the lens distortion is far more noticeable. The ultra-wide on the Mi 11 Ultra is good at picking the correct exposure every time. The difference remains in the rendition of the details, which is more noticeable on these shots. The Mi 11 Ultra has softer and more natural-looking textures, while the S21's slight over-sharpening strikes again. Like the main cameras, colors are rendered about the same, with no off-putting saturation. Now, since the Galaxy S21 Ultra has native 3x and 10x zoom, we're going to quickly compare the Mi 11 Ultra's 5x zoom side by side with the Galaxy Note20 Ultra, which also has 5x optical zoom. The Mi 11 Ultra has a 48 megapixel quad-Bayer sensor, while the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra has a 12 megapixel sensor that's a bit smaller, but with a considerably brighter aperture. Image quality on the Mi 11 Ultra is very good. Compared to the Note 20 Ultra, the dynamic range is about the same, but the Mi 11 Ultra's photos are a tad sharper. While colors are a close match between the two, we preferred the 5x shots from the Mi 11 Ultra. The Mi 11 Ultra does not have 10x optical zoom, and yet in our tests we were surprised to see it still kept up with the Galaxy S21 Ultra's 10x periscope zoom fairly well. The S21's photos have worse contrast, which sometimes makes images appear softer, while in fact it has a bit more detail. But really, it's a toss-up between the two. At times, the Galaxy would overexpose certain scenes, which was enough for the Mi 11 to take the lead, so it depends on what you're shooting. In low-lit photos, the Mi's camera produces different tones, leaning towards orange cast in some situations. The S21 was able to capture this more accurately, or at least more neutral. Exposure is brighter on the Mi, and this revealed more detail in the shadows, but the highlights got clipped. The S21 in comparison manages to keep highlights in check. Night mode closes the gap between the two phones, with both resulting images now having identical dynamic range and resolved details. Noise is well reduced on both cameras, while shadows and highlights are both well balanced. We're giving the edge here to the Galaxy S21 for rendering the more color accurate shots. The Mi 11 Ultra takes fantastic nighttime shots with its ultra-wide camera. The S21 Ultra, however, has a slight advantage in the dynamic range where highlights don't get clipped. With night mode enabled, however, both devices output solid night shots. The S21 Ultra did a better job of capturing much finer details at the expense of minimal noise, but this was not absolutely true for every single shot. For the low light zoom photos, we're gonna bring back the Note 20 Ultra to compare its native 5x zoom periscope camera to the Mi 11 Ultras. Despite its darker aperture, the Mi 11 captures cleaner shots with less noise than the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Dynamic range is also better on the Mi 11 Ultra. Even with night mode on, the Note 20 didn't manage the same oomph that the Mi 11 Ultra delivers. The Mi 11's images are still sharper, more detailed, and cleaner overall. To be clear, both of these camera systems perform exceptionally well and are very capable, but neither of them are perfect. It's also clear that both phones are well adaptable between the different camera lengths, and it's really exciting to see the ultra-wide and telephoto cameras improving on smartphones so much even from just 1 year ago. We tend to prefer the Mi 11 Ultra's more natural-looking details out of the main camera, although the S21 Ultra's exposure was more accurate. We thought the zoom camera on the Mi 11 Ultra did better than the Note 20's 5x zoom and matched the S21 Ultra's 10x periscope. The Mi 11 Ultra's high-resolution periscope camera sensor takes the cake. The ultra-wide performance of the Mi 11 Ultra is stellar, but perhaps the S21 Ultra's camera takes more contrasty photos, which also look nicer and have straighter lines. But the difference is marginal, and you do get a wider field of view with the Xiaomi. Overall, you can't go wrong with either Ultra. However, if we have to pick a winner, we would give the crown to the Mi 11 Ultra for the best photos. But there's more to a phone than just the cameras, so make sure you watch our full review of the Mi 11 Ultra to hear our expert's opinion on other aspects of the phone. I'm Ricky, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.